in the previous look at the Horizon promo, and that is, of course, the Ferrari Portofino and the Gunter Works. But there are some other new ones as well, aren't there?
Yes, there are. Shall we take a look? I think if we want to roll the clip. So first up, yes, it is that 2018 Ferrari Portofino. This one is kind of that entry-level Ferrari, if there were such a thing. It replaces the outgoing Ferrari California and California T models. As I say, this is an entry-level car, so you can get one of these for around $215,000 to $250,000, depending on options. So, you know, just an everyman's Ferrari. But despite that kind of entry-level tag, it's still an incredibly powerful car. So it's got a 3.9-litre twin-turbo V8, which gets up to 590 horsepower, which is an increase of 40 horsepower over the aforementioned California T. It can top out at 199 miles per hour and does 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds. And frankly, it just looks amazing. It's such a great-looking car, such a great improvement, I think, over the California, which itself was a nice-looking car. I think the reason this kind of sits as an entry-level model is probably because of the other lines that Ferrari has out at the moment. So you have the 488 and the 488 and the 812, which are those real, like, kind of raw supercars. Whereas this one straddles that nice line between being a really, really high-end sports car and just tipping into that modern supercar feel. It's an absolutely stunning car, and one of the cool features of it, one of the features that I find quite interesting is that they didn't want to ruin the lines of the car when you had the roof down like this. So whereas a lot of convertibles will have those kind of metal end-shaped bits of iron that will go behind the seat in order to protect the driver in a crash, this car actually has a feature which isn't simulated in-game, but is part of the real car, which is once it detects it might be losing control, it's about to roll, it has a deployable roll cage that shoots up out of the back of the car to cover the drivers and any passengers and protect them from any incoming damage. I just think it's a really cool solve to a problem that might affect the visual of the car, but they don't want to obviously sacrifice any safety. So next up, Tom is jumping into the 92 Toyota Supra. So this is the Mark III Supra. There were two Supras before this, but they were before the kind of name change. So there was it used to be called the Celica Supra, and they were part of the Celica line. It was like the GT model of Celica had that kind of Supra moniker. This was the first car which carried the Supra name on its own, separate from the Celica as its own car line. So it's got a 2-litre inline 6 twin turbo, tops out about 207 horsepower. It's kind of at that era where you may suffer a little bit of turbo lag, so it's not as fast as the car that followed it, the Mark IV, which regular viewers of this show might remember as revealing outside the front of the office by ripping off a sheet. So this is the car that predated that by a few years. So it's front-engined, rear-wheel drive, which means it's really well balanced for drift. So if you take it into the garage and throw a few upgrades in there, then it can be a really, really sweet drift car. And of course, it's just another Toyota back in the game. So it's really great for us to be able to bring these cars back. And because of where we are and the time of day in the world at the moment, we'll be able to actually see this feature, but it also features pop-up headlights, which adds charm to any car. So, another interesting fact about this particular model as well is it was never released outside of Japan. So it was never available in the US or Europe, at least not without import. And the great thing about that is it means that the steering wheel is on the correct side, because Japan, obviously, like the UK, it drives on the left side of the road, which is to say the correct side of the road.
Correct side of the road. I'll support that one.
Yeah, so you can see, Tom, it's probably not going to have enough of a straight for us to really kind of see that turbo lag when it kicks in, because it does have at stock, it has a bit of a tricky power curve to get the most out of. You really do have to get a nice straight so that you can really gun it for a little while, get that turbo spooled up, and then it can really kick into gear.
It sounds nice. I know that's like the opinion no one ever asked for, but it sounds very nice too.
That is a thing that our audience care about a great deal, Charlie. I don't think it is in any way controversial to point out that it sounds nice. The 2-litre, like I say, 2-litre inline twin turbo, and you can. if Tom had taken on the motor in this clip, you'd have probably heard it, but you do really hear that turbo spooling up as well as it starts to kick in. Yeah, it's a really, really cool car. And I think it's cool, perhaps just for its heritage of where it sits, because it really marks the sort of start of that iconic Supra line separated out from the Celica.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
I
let's
always
see.
wanted a Celica growing up, you know. There was someone who lived in our street who had a Celica, and I always looked at it and I was like, I'm going to have that one day. I don't,
Yeah, they're a really great looking car, the Celica. I think there's they're not that expensive if you have to get an old Celica now. There's whereas getting a Mark IV Supra will set you back at least 50k. You can get an old Celica for probably $2,000. Anyway, this is the Porsche Gunther Works 400R. This is a really interesting car, which I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people watching hadn't heard of, just because it's a bit of a curio. But it is built by a company that was called Forza, that's now calling themselves Gunther Works, who previously used to make aftermarket wheels and body kits and things for cars. They have a good pedigree in making luxury car parts. This was their first attempt at making their own car. I say making their own car, it's quite clearly based on somebody else's car. And if you wanted to get your hands on one of these cars, you would need to contact them. You're probably a bit late now because they only made 25 of them. They're not making any more. But you need to contact them, and you have to pay in the region of $525 to sort of $670,000 US. And you would need to donate a Porsche 993 Carrera 2 as the donor car, because they would build this on top of that car that you've donated. The really cool thing about this car is the 993 gen of the Porsche 911 never had a GT3 RS line. That didn't start until the gen after this one, the 996. So what Gunther Works wanted to do was think about, well, what would the GT3 RS of the 993 look like? And this is it. So it's effectively a track spec version of the 993 generation 911. And it's just super cool. So all the body is made out of carbon fiber. It's been really, really stripped down. So it's super, super lightweight. It's got a brand new engine built by Roth Sport Racing. And it's a 4-litre boxer engine, flat six, naturally aspirated. So it's just this really, really great, really guttural, powerful engine. And what I really like about this is how it's just all about performance, all about track performance. There's a few houses and manufacturers who will take your classic Porsche and they'll make it super luxurious. A few months ago, we looked at the Emery Special, which we added in a previous update. I forget exactly which one it was, but that's where somebody took an old Porsche and Emery Special. They make it super luxurious. They rebuild it out of really fine luxury parts. So you have a wooden steering wheel and a really beautiful finish and walnut dash. And every single one of them was supposed to be unique and really personal to the owner. But that was all about luxury. This is all about performance, about being able to take this down to the track and get an incredible speed out of it. So it's super lightweight, about 1,200 kilos. It's 431 horsepower, and it's absolute joy to drive. I think it's really, really great to get into the game. And I think it's really great to get just Gunther Works in front of more people, because it is a curious car brand, a curious car to exist at all.
I mean, they sound really fascinating. I hadn't heard, and this may happen to many other car manufacturers, but the idea of sort of taking a car in plus a big fat sum of money and then them turning it into something completely unique. And then from there only being 25 in the world as well. That's fascinating.
Yeah, exactly. They really know how to build in that that scarcity, that demand through scarcity, by just having really huge barriers to entry and then saying, I'm only going to do this 25 times.
Yeah, absolutely.
So despite the very German sounding name, they're actually based in California as well. So they are a US based company. There's a really great YouTube series where they take you through the kind of building of one of these, where they show them stripping down the original car and rebuilding all the new parts out of carbon fiber. Definitely worth a look. It's just a really, really cool car.
I'm going to put that in my watch later queue immediately after this stream. That sounds great.
Yeah, so that one, just in case anyone forgets, was for taking photographs of 200 cars in Horizon Promo. Yeah, so next up we have the 2018 Mercedes-AMG E63 S. This one, we called out earlier, you can unlock for getting 50% Festival Players completion in winter. This car is an absolute beast. Depending on what options you pick, you can end up paying around $120,000 for one of these. This particular model is the Model S, so it has an extra 30 horsepower, taking it up to 603 horsepower. I imagine that 3 being kind of important because the equivalent spec, the BMW M5, just has 600 horsepower. So I wouldn't want to say there's any like aggressive competition between Mercedes and BMW, but like there obviously is. Yes, this one can reach 155 miles per hour. It's got 0 to 60 in 3.3 seconds. And all of that in what looks like, you know, an executive family car that you might just drive down to the golf course or go and take the kids to football practice in. It's named the E63, and that's because it's the successor to the previous line, which was also called the E63, which was named that because it had a 6.3 litre engine. This one actually doesn't have a 6.3 litre engine. It has a 4 litre twin turbo V8, so it's a slightly smaller engine, but making up for that power deficit with the twin turbo there. Also kind of interesting about this particular line is that previously AMG cars were always rear-wheel drive. They were always manual gears. They were all about like being real driver's performance cars. Whereas this one is actually as standard is all-wheel drive and it's automatic. And although there are options that allow you to tweak that preference, that is the standard how they come with, which just kind of opens up that performance to a lot more people. AMG cars had a bit of a reputation for being, like I say, drivers' cars, but also quite challenging to drive for a regular person. A regular person who might, you know, drive an executive saloon car like this around. So this one has been made so that like a normal person is still able to really get the joy out of just all that power and speed because it's got that all-wheel drive, automatic gearbox. So I don't want to say anyone can drive it because that's probably underselling the skill required, and it's certainly a much more manageable drive than previous cars in this line.
I mean, if it has an automatic gearbox on it, it means I can drive it. So anyone realistically could with that logic.
Yeah, automatic gearboxes had a bit of a bad rep, which I think is probably ill-founded. I think a lot of the modern automatic gearboxes are genuinely brilliant and just work to get you through the gears so fast. It used to be the case that an auto gearbox would slow you down effectively. Like you wouldn't be as fast as what you'd be if you were just changing it, clicking through at a manual. That's not really the case anymore. Modern auto boxes are pretty impressive and really allows you to just put your foot down and let the car do all the hard work.
Yeah.
Yeah, you won't be able to see it here because I don't think Tom is going to look at it for us now, but it also has really cool wheels where it has like a detachable Mercedes badge, which just covers up all of the the lug nuts. So when you're looking at the wheels, you can't see how it's connected to the car at all. There's no visible nuts or bolts or anything. Okay, now moving on. This is now Tom, who recorded this footage for us earlier, showing off his drift skills in the Formula Drift 599. So this car is an absolute beast, and it's a ridiculous drift monster. So Tom has helpfully taken it over to Fortune Island to take it down the needle climb for us, where all the best drifters in the world go to show what they've got. So yeah, this is based on a 599. It's got a twin centrifugal supercharged 6-litre V12, and it sounds absolutely incredible. It is an absolutely ridiculous engine. It can reach over 900 horsepower. So originally, this particular car was built over in Japan by Daigo Saito, who was the first driver to ever win both Formula Drift and the D1 GP. He's then since handed it, probably sold it, over to Federico Scarifo, who then reworked it back in Italy into the car that we have today, and he has affectionately nicknamed it the Fiorella. I'm probably butchering that pronunciation, so sorry, Italy. So the thing about this car, which you can't really see here, where it's effectively the only car on screen, is that it's actually massive. The 599 as a base is a wide car. It's kind of like the width of a small pickup truck. But this
Wow,
version
really?
adds on those wide arch kits, so you can get that extra steering angle, and it just dwarfs those other cars that you'll see in Formula Drift. So when you think in all of the Sylvia cars, which are quite compact, even a Mustang is significantly smaller than this. Yeah, and it would have initially come with a flappy paddle gearbox because it's a modern supercar, but this one's been modified. So instead of the flappy gearbox, it uses a 6-speed sequential gearbox instead. Oh, and that's convenient, isn't it? Because that is another one of our Formula Drift cars. So I don't quite know how Tom's engineered this, but he is not the only one drifting down the needle descent. Let him take his picture. That's right. It is the Formula Drift Chevy Corvette, which is one of the other cars in this update, which we'll be taking a look at shortly.
It's not a bad shot either. I think that's the one thing I've noticed is how easy it is in photo mode to just go, that picture will do, and it's absolutely stunning.
It helps that it's a great looking game and it features great looking cars. I think it's yeah, I wouldn't want to cheapen the skill of the photographers too much, but I do think that it's just does a good job of chucking really beautiful things into really beautiful environments, and therefore allows you to create those really interesting and compelling photos.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely going to help with the Horizon promo, especially when you're putting cars like that into the mix. Am I right?
Damn straight.
Right, well, those are your Series 21